Success!
Whoa!
No! Hi everybody, my name is Jacob Tyson. I'm here with the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation on another episode of Real Talk, Real Tips. Today we're in Southwest Oklahoma with my good buddy, Austin Griffin, who is a fisheries research biologist out of our Norman Fish Lab. Today we're going to be teaching you guys all things noodling. So Austin, can you kind of tell us what we're doing out here today? Maybe give us a little bit of info on someone who might want to get started noodling.
Yeah, so we're actually going to noodle today for research. And I'll give a real brief background on that and then kind of go into what you want to look for. And I'll start by saying by no means am I a pro. So
For sure.
But anyways, this is kind of part of a larger channel catfish recruitment project that we're looking into. Basically, a lot of our small impoundments have limited natural recruitment of channel catfish. One way that we've tried to remedy that through the years is through the use of artificial spawning cavities or spawning boxes, different structures. But we've seen kind of limited success with that. And one of the reasons we think is that a lot of these structures we've used in the past have very large openings. So you think of a barrel just wide open or something like that. So the way these fish spawn and what's going on, and it doesn't really matter if we're talking about channels, blues, or flatheads here, they're all cavity nesters. You have a male that's in there once they spawn that's guarding the eggs and the fry for a week or more till they're fully developed and ready to swim out. And we think one of the issues we're having is that those relatively small channel catfish males in these larger structures are having issues defending the nest, and it's just being predated, sunfish, whatever, eating the eggs and fry, crappie maybe. So anyway, what we wanted to do with this is go out and noodle natural spawning cavities, take a bunch of measurements on the fish, take measurements on the opening to the spawning cavity itself, and see if we can correlate that to the fish size, and then take that information and apply it to our artificial spawning structures.
Gotcha.
So when we're out here noodling, you're kind of looking for, it can be artificial or natural, but basically you're looking for, at least in a reservoir situation in particular, slab type structures, right? So actual slabs, old house foundations, the boat ramp, old road beds, whatever. Something that's large enough for these fish to get up underneath and excavate a pretty big circle underneath. Same thing with sandstone shelves or natural rock. I don't know, you may be able to see a little bit of that back behind us here. But you're looking for something like that, large enough, say, for a channel cat, I'd say at least a 3-foot diameter. Bigger fish, bigger, just go up from there. And you're looking also for something that's on the correct substrate type as well, because that fish has to be able to tunnel up in there, excavate it out a little bit, push a little lip up to close that opening in a little bit. So you're looking for those type of structures that are sitting on a bit of a sandy bed or a fine gravel bed, fairly small rock. If it's just a big old rock pile on top of bigger rock, you may find one here and there, but that's not usually the best thing. So a lot of times in our streams, these fish will spawn in like cut banks, beaver holes in the bank. I don't recommend noodling that kind of stuff. It can be a little dangerous. Beaver can tear you up pretty good. But even old, log jams, big root wads, things like that as well. But the easiest thing, in my opinion, to get a fish out of is going to be those slab-like structures.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and let's get started. All right, so we just beached the boat at our first hole. Out here behind me, you can see the guys already heading out, but there's a house foundation in about 4 feet of water that we're gonna go out, use these poking sticks, go ahead and get under, and see if we can feel a fish down below the foundation. So we'll catch y'all there. So we're out here on the foundation. We found a fish in this hole after doing some scouring. We're gonna see if we can pull him out. It's a pretty big hole, so we're gonna try to keep him kind of contained towards the back and see if we can get a good thump on him. So am I just using this like in the side to try
to kind of shoo him towards you, feel where he is, get an idea of what the hole's like.
Oh, I missed him. He's in there though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it bite you or?
Yeah, he hit me. I wasn't quick enough.
So a lot of our blue and channel catfish, they're a lot more aggressive for whatever reason when they're guarding nests, especially when they've got eggs and fry. You can reach in that hole and you might get hit 6, 7, 8 times on one breath. And it's just a matter of getting your hand in their mouth. Whereas our flatheads, even whenever they're guarding eggs, they're not super aggressive generally. And you might get one good chance to get a hand on that fish before he just sits in the very back and hides from you. Nice.
All right, got our first fish of the day. Nice flathead, coming in probably, what, close to 8, 9 pounds?
Yeah, close to 10.
Close to 10. Nice chunky gal. It's a good fish right there. We're going to stick her in the net so that we can take her back to the boat and go get all the data we need to off of her.
So this is a flathead catfish, kind of a moderate size one. It's a mature fish. More than likely a female. See how fat it is. She's got eggs in there still. But what we do is we take 5 different measurements, basically just morphometrics for the fish, just because we're kind of trying to cover all our bases when we started this. So we're going to do a total length, which would be tip to tip, standard length, which is going to be from the front of the jaw to the end of the caudal peduncle here. This is the caudal fin. The muscular part here is called the caudal peduncle. We also take a horizontal maximum, so to speak, across here, a vertical maximum this direction on the skull, and then we take a circumference measurement in front of and behind the pectoral spine here. So we'll just go ahead and do all those. Yep, so we do everything metric, right, for publication purposes. So this fish is about 815 millimeters right there. 767, and that's roughly 184.
Is that the out gig?
Yeah, outside gate. And then we're not too worried here, right, as far as all this soft stuff. They can squeeze through a little hole, but where they do get constricted, turn it this way, is right in this vicinity. Vertical max here, which is about 121. I'll do a circumference in front of and behind these pectoral spines. So we took all those measurements on the fish a minute ago. We're also measuring the spawning cavity entrance, or the opening to the spawning cavity, at its narrowest horizontal and vertical point. And then we're going back and correlating the size of that opening to the fish that may be spawning in there, and then we're applying that to artificial, just wooden spawning boxes, with the intent to give that fish the smallest opening, or the easiest opening that it can defend as possible, so that it can defend the eggs and fry. And then hopefully down the road we see increased recruitment because of that. So we caught a female flathead out of a hole here, but we found another fish back in there, presumably the male. And what these fish do is the male usually finds a cavity, kind of cleans it out, gets it excavated out early, and then the female will show up, they'll spawn, and that male stays in there for the next week or so, maybe a little longer, guarding the eggs. They take about 4 or 5 days to hatch, depending on water temperature. And then he'll actually stay in there with the fry ball for quite a while, another few days, until they're fully developed, swim up ready, and ready to leave the hole. All right, so just for ID purposes, this is a flathead catfish. The most obvious thing being that it has a very flat, wide head compared to a bluer channel. They also have this big underbite. You see here, bottom jaw extends past the top one. And then the real telltale giveaway, different coloration, everything too. A lot of that depends on the turbidity of the water. Channels and blues are generally kind of dark gray to I mean, very dark, almost black at times. But the big telltale giveaway, besides all those, is that it has a flat caudal or tail fin. The other two big catfish species have deeply forked tail fins.
So we've got a hole right here below me. Jory, one of our fisheries biologists, is in the hole now trying to pull out a male flathead to go along with our female. Ellie. Austin, can you kind of tell us the difference in the two fish? Just some distinctive characteristics to tell them apart.
Yeah, it's a little, so the easiest thing, male versus female right now, is going to be that big old belly on her because she's full of eggs at the moment. As they get further into the spawn, and you can see it a little bit on this male, he's going to have a wider head relative to his body size. He's going to be thinner overall relative to his head size. But this portion of the skull, these muscles will get real developed, even bigger, you know, be real bulged out right here.
Right.
And you can see some scarring and stuff on him up here, a little bit on her as well on the top fin there. But anyway, that's from, you know, moving around, excavating, working underneath rock. So they get pretty rough after a while.
Yeah,
awesome. On their own.
Can you kind of give us some tips as to some things we did out in the water, just as a matter of getting into the hole and pulling the fish out?
Yeah, so a lot of times these fish get in there and push the substrate up to kind of close the opening off, narrow it down, right? So a lot of times that kind of helps you find something, right? Versus just a wide open hole that feels kind of silty.
Right.
If you fill that little lip in some nice, clean, fine sediment, coarse sand or gravel, that's a good clue that there's a fish in there.
For sure.
Before you even get bit or anything like that. And then sometimes we don't want to do it too much, but if the fish is not fitting back out that hole, go ahead and excavate it out a little bit so we're not tearing that thing up even worse. This dude may have got a little bit of that on the way out. But anyway, you can kind of, you know, dig the bottom of that opening out a little bit where that fish will come back out.
Good deal.
And go put them back in.
Well, we're going to get some measurements on these fish for our research and then go ahead and get them back in their hole. All right. So we're going to release these fish back into their hole. Here's the male. He said we want these fish to go ahead and spawn. Put all those baby catfish back into the lake. So we're going to bring them down and just let them go. So there's the male. We're going to grab out the female again. Handling these fish is very important. Always want, when they're out of the water, to support the belly. Then we're gonna let her go back into the hole too. Off she goes. All right, let's go find some more.
All right, so whenever we're out noodling, one of the biggest safety things that you can do is make sure that you're always doing it with a buddy. It's never safe to come out here and do this by yourself, no matter how confident you are in your abilities. These rocks that these fish are under, I mean, they're obviously building big voids and cavities under them. Rocks can shift, shirt sleeves can get caught, fingers can get pinched. Fish can get a hold of you and you might struggle to pull your hand back out. So it's always good to have a buddy standing close to you, especially when you're going down in a hole. And then if you have some kind of signal, whether it's you're clicking your feet together, you start kicking a foot real hard, let your partner know that they need to come down and try to help get you out of that hole, or even help get hold of a fish if you're trying to pull a big one out. So just make sure that you've always got a partner with you like we're doing right here. And generally try to just have one person at a time go down in that hole so that the other person can be there to ready to help get them out if an emergency happens.
Almost.
Hey.
I told you what to bring.
Here you go.
Oh, nice.
God, there's like, it's a cavity and a cavity.
Yeah.
Way back there.
Channel or blue? Channel?
Blue. So this is a blue catfish. They're most similar to our channel catfish. Those are the two that most people struggle to tell apart because they can both kind of get this gray color. Blues are a little bit more blue, channels are a little bit more brown. But our big things are this forked tail. That's how we decide that it's either a channel or a blue. Those are our two species with forked tails. And then our defining characteristic, this is actually a fairly good example if I'll show you, is this anal fin closest to his tail. I know it looks slightly curved, but it's very square and box shaped, versus a channel catfish almost has like a half moon crescent shape to it. Channel catfish will also often have spots. So if it has spots, it's for sure a channel catfish, but just because it doesn't always mean it's a blue, but it's a fairly good indicator most of the time. So it's a blue catfish, not a super big one. Obviously old enough to be mature since we got it out of a spawning cavity. But these fish can grow to be upwards of 100 pounds possibly, and that doesn't happen very often. But 20, 30, 40 pounds can happen fairly frequently in a lot of our reservoirs and rivers. So this grunting noise that they make is actually a result of them vibrating their pectoral spines against another bone up here at the base of their skull. And it just kind of vibrates almost like a cricket's legs, the way that they rub them together and makes that chirping sound. Obviously with this denser bone, it makes it a lot more of like a low grunt instead of a chirp.
So this is a channel catfish, more than likely a male. As you can see, he's very scarred and scabbed up. He's been in that hole for a while. He was guarding a nest. Very like emaciated looking almost. He probably hadn't eaten in, who knows, maybe a week or so. So a couple different ways to tell this from the blue catfish you just looked at. It always helps me. These have a very, whereas a blue catfish has a fairly steep slope starting at its top jaw, coming back to the base of the dorsal spine here, channel catfish are relatively flat. It might be hard to pick up, but he's got a curved anal fin here versus where blue catfish, you can almost like run a ruler along that bottom edge if you get that fin stretched out. And then we won't be able to do this on camera, but the real telltale way to do it is if you count what are called fin rays, which are all these little, kind of vertical running structures in the fin there, the soft structures. Blue catfish have 30 or more of those in this fin. Channel catfish have 29 or less. As you can see, this fish has little leeches all over him. He's been in there doing his thing, guarding that nest for a while. But we'll get him back in there.
What's up, everybody? We're back off the water now, me and Austin. We just had a great time going out and catching some fish. It was a great first experience for me. I'm definitely hooked on it now. Couple of things we're gonna get into here, Austin. How did you first get into noodling?
I just kind of ended up with a group of guys. Actually, it was when I was interning for the department initially, which was 14 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And summer internship, and just went out with a group of guys from work and dabbled in a little bit, myself with some other buddies, but nothing real serious. And anyway, went out and we caught a few fish, and I would by no means call myself avid or anything as far as noodling's concerned, but I do usually get out a couple times a year, ever since then, and enjoy it. So
definitely. Do you remember like what your first fish, like that experience of catching your first fish while noodling was?
I think the first fish, this wasn't the same trip, but the first fish that I actually caught myself was also still my biggest fish to date, and it was a flathead that was right at 40 pounds. So
what was it like pulling that out of a hole?
That was fun. It came out of a culvert.
Oh,
that was buried in the lake. So no, it was awesome. I didn't have gloves, didn't have anything. We were just out at the lake swimming, happened to find a spot, and tore my wrists and hands and everything all to pieces, but it was fun.
Hey, there you go. So what do you recommend, like clothing wise, for someone that wants to come out and start?
I recommend long sleeves are fine. I wouldn't wear anything real heavy just in case you get snagged up. You want to be able to tear it loose safety wise, but it does help, kind of protect your arms a little bit from getting scabbed up real bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Just the plain white cotton work gloves tend to work pretty well. You can get them at Harbor Freight for $5 a pack. Get 10 pair
Yeah.
for $5.
I noticed today, I kind of liked the gloves we were using. They were a little bit thinner, but still kept like good protection.
Right.
So we could kind of have some feel as we're getting into the hole to
Exactly.
determine what we're feeling. Noticed like today, a lot of the males that we were pulling out had eggs. And so kind of being able to feel the difference between the eggs and the fish, I think was pretty important.
Right, and it helps to, I try to avoid leather because it's just so slick underwater.
Yeah.
That like loose woven, just those white gloves, they tend to help you get a better grip.
Yeah, if
So.
anybody's seen some previous clips, you've definitely seen me let go of a couple of fish today, but you know, we pulled them out of the water and then they just happened to, you know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
do what fish
Just
do and
quick
wriggle
release.
and worm. And
Right.
do you have any other like safety tips for somebody that?
Yeah, so it's always best to go with a group, right? At least
sure.
have one other person with you.
For sure.
It's probably something you don't want to be doing by yourself, just in
Right.
general. You know, usually if one person's underwater, the other one's fairly close to them above water, just waiting for them. And you can kind of stagger it, you know, vice versa. Some of the other stuff to worry about, keep an eye out for, especially if you're noodling, anywhere that's popular, you know, a popular fishery. You got to look out for fishing hooks, rope, line, things like that you can get tangled in.
For sure.
A lot of concrete structure in the lake's going to have metal of some sort in it, rebar, wire mesh, something that can snag you or cut you up. So
Definitely.
worry about that. If you're worried about turtles, beavers, whatever, snakes, things like that, it's okay to have a little stick with you, right? Just break off a little willow branch. You can check that hole out first, and you're going to be able to tell if you're not going to find a beaver underneath, you know, an old boat ramp in the lake. But if you're brave enough and want to try doing this in the river and you cut bank or something like that, that's something I would be concerned with, is beavers. It's an acquaintance of my neighbor's, actually his old barber, that did this a lot, that had his hand just mangled very, very badly by a beaver.
Really?
Basically just had 2 fingers and a thumb left by the time it.
Man.
Turtles I wouldn't worry about so much, but
Right.
beavers, yeah.
Definitely got to be careful.
Yeah.
Good deal. So today we were kind of noodling some spots that you and your buddies and our other fisheries team had already kind of been over and seen, but what are some like tips and tricks for somebody that like is looking for a spot to go noodle?
Right. I think a lot of people are, like, rightfully so, pretty protective of the spots they found. So
Right.
I don't know that you're going to be able to get someone just to tell you, hey, go here. But a good tool, particularly in reservoirs, you can use the time-lapse feature in Google Earth. Go back and look for a time where the lake, whatever particular lake or river, whatever you're wanting to check out, was low, and look for structure on satellite imagery that way. If you've got a boat, you've got side scan imagery, you know, whatever, Humminbird, Lowrance, whatever you have, that's another good way to do it. Just rove around the shoreline and look for slab-like structures laying on the bottom, or large rock.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Aside from like concrete slabs and big rocks, is there anything else we can kind of look for to maybe pull out a fish?
Yeah, you know, they'll get in, if it's just a clay bank and there's some holes, you know, like maybe it's whatever, an old muskrat hole or an old beaver hole or something. They'll get in and excavate those out as well. Log jams, large root wads, even like standing timber in the lake where you've got, you know, kind of a partially exposed root ball at the bottom. They'll spawn in those kind of things. Large logs, hollowed out logs, whatever. The most straightforward and probably easiest to catch or easiest to noodle structure is going to be slab type stuff.
Right.
Or rock, you know, just large flat rock. A lot of times it's hard to block a fish in a log jam or in a root wad, just because there's so many places it can exit, you know.
Right.
But overhung, just cut bank, they'll spawn in lots of places. So.
Awesome. Can you kind of describe, you mentioned the term blocking.
Right.
Can you kind of go into what that looks like when you're noodling your structure?
Right, so a lot of times, not always, sometimes there's just one entrance hole, but a lot of times there's multiple entrance holes and exits, in a structure. So there may be one main kind of larger opening or something that fish is kind of geared toward facing is defending, but there could be some side shoots. So if you've got 2 or 3 buddies with you and have a way for somebody just to stick their feet in one hole and somebody stick their feet or hands in another one while you go in and try and get the fish out of the main hole, that can really up your odds quite a bit.
Awesome. Can you kind of walk us through like what happens from the moment you like find a hole with your feet to going in and getting that fish?
Right. So I always look for, you'll find a lot of ledges, a lot of holes and things that don't have fish.
Right.
And usually you can tell if something's been active because the substrate will be cleaned out. And if there's a fish in there, it might feel silty, over here, and you move a few feet over and you'll find a hole that feels like clean sand or fine pebbles or whatever. And a lot of times you'll feel a little bit of a lip in that hole that fish is actively using. So if you feel those, that's doesn't necessarily mean they're there, but they've been there recently if they're not in there right now. So that's something to look for to start with. But other than that, I like to go in, if I find something like that, I like to go in just with my hand first, because a lot of times it seems like that first opportunity you get is going to be your best one. That fish is going to be up closer to the mouth. It hasn't been messed with yet, and they're usually pretty aggressive if they're in there sitting on eggs, right, or defending eggs. And so I like to just go with my hand, and it's a bit of a, it can be a little nerve-wracking or whatever because you don't know if it's there or what's there yet or whatever, but a lot of times that first encounter is going to be your best chance. Like I said, some of the larger holes, you can have your little stick, little willow branch or something that's not going to hurt the fish, but you can feel around and maybe that fish is further back in, or it's got another hole or something where it's moved, and then you can start working it. But prepare to get bit. Channel catfish and blue catfish have a lot higher PSI, so to speak, bite strength than the flatheads do. And that's just a factor of how they feed, right? Flatheads feed like buccal suction, just, they open their mouth quick and suck something in versus actually eating on whatever it may be. But you'll know it. You get hit by a blue, decent sized blue, like you're gonna feel it. It's not gonna hurt you, but you're gonna know it. Flatheads, a lot of time, even on a big one, it's just a pop, and that's about it.
Just like that initial bite scares a lot of people.
Right, and it's just, if you can get past that, it's not too bad.
For sure.
Yep. And then I guess the last bit of advice I'd say is if you get it out,
hold on tight.
it's good to get it out, and you've obviously got one hand in the mouth at least, but the old bear hug, kind of thing's not a bad idea.
Right. We talked about making sure you support the belly, especially on some of these bigger fish. Full of eggs. We really want to keep a nice embrace on them.
Right.
Don't want to put too much pressure on their jaw or any other part of their body.
Right. The old hug a paddlefish campaign, kind of same thing applies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, especially on the larger ones,
Definitely. Can you kind of go into like any stories you might have about, say, the biggest catfish you've ever noodled? Kind of just what that was like, how was the fight?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You can probably find somebody else caught a lot bigger ones than me. We've done a lot of numbers, but not a ton of big ones. 40-pound fish is the biggest one I've personally caught. And we were actually just out 4th of July at the lake having some hot dogs and just kind of playing around at the swim beach and whatnot. And happened to stumble across one little hole that ended up being an old, I believe there was an old submerged pond dam there, but there's an old culvert.
Gotcha. And
anyway, didn't have any gear with me or anything like that. Wasn't planning on noodling, so it's just kind of a barehanded deal, which I don't recommend. But I was able to kind of tread water long enough after getting that fish out to get, back into a little shallower water and wade back into shore and all. And still got scars today, to prove it. It was fun, but big enough fish that, got about halfway up your forearm anyway. So
good deal. What would you say, like, if there was someone watching that wants to get into noodling, but maybe is a little on the more cautious, kind of scared side?
I would say, I guess, first off, like we already mentioned, take a buddy with you. But I would start with some smaller structure, and you're probably going to find channel cats more than likely,
Right.
but smaller fish. So easily wadeable, near shore, shallower stuff. And again, if you're real nervous, you can put that stick in there first, and they're going to bite that stick. So you can kind
Right.
of get an idea of what that sounds and feels like a little bit.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of an adrenaline rush. Once you get used to it, it's not bad at all. It's kind of nerve-wracking until you get bit once, and you're like, okay, that's not that bad.
Right. Yeah, I
Then you
kind of
just go for
experienced
it,
that
right?
today. Like
Right.
the first one was kind of like a little intimidating, and then after that, it was like,
All right.
I'm hooked,
It's
man.
just fun, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be doing this probably till the day I die now.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
do you have any tips just for anybody that wants to get started and just doesn't know where to begin?
So these three main catfish species, right? Like all our big three, flathead, blue, and channel, can be found across the state. Some of our smaller impoundments you're not going to find blue catfish in, but
For sure.
there's flatheads and channels in about every piece of water of any kind of size around the state,
Right.
whether that be a stream or a reservoir. So anywhere that's, I mean, we've caught them in a lot of these little local city municipality lakes that are 50 acres or less. We're still shocking flatheads when we're
Right.
sampling, like we're seeing them, So anywhere that you're allowed to, I'd say check your local regs, if it's a city water supply lake or something like that, make sure you're actually allowed to do it, because some of them have additional rules beyond what the ODWC does,
That's a good point.
whether you're allowed to swim or wade in the lake or not.
Definitely.
But yeah, I would, I don't know. I would just start, like, if you have a favorite reservoir that you bass fish, crappie fish, whatever, and you're kind of familiar with, that's probably where I'd start, because
Yeah.
they exist there. There's a good
Right.
chance they're going to be around. You just got to
Find the shallows, find the
Right.
structure.
go back, use your satellite imagery is probably the best tool you've got, and just do a little pre-scouting, so to speak, from the computer.
Good deal.
Go from there.
We ended up catching a couple nice flatheads, a couple blue cats, and one or two channels, but overall a good day, and we hope you'll get out and try it yourselves. So we'll see y'all next time.